with us. He's going to share with us our his perspective from an older age. It should be very interesting. Um, I also wanted to mention that Chicago IANDS needs some volunteers. I need some help with the computer situation, and we need backup people for various things. If you have these skills and have the time to help us a little bit, it would be great. Um, and the third thing is, uh, over this past month, I've gotten to know a psychologist named Susan Trout. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Susan's work, but she, in 1950, established the Institute uh, for uh, uh, for the Institute for the Development of Service, I think it's called. And it talks about the importance of service, which is something that all people with, or most people with near-death experiences fully understand. And she's written 4 wonderful books on this subject. And Susan is, I wanted her to speak, but she's had physical problems. Susan is now 88, and she has closed the Institute, but her books are still available, and they can all be downloaded for free. Oh, people are calling me. Excuse me a minute. There, hello?
Yeah, hi, Diane.
It doesn't.
Craig. I guess you know this already, but if you try to go on the Zoom on the link.
Robert, I sent an email just a few minutes ago. Look at your email. There's a new one that gives you a link.
Oh, good.
Okay,
all right, thank you.
we're going. Okay. Sorry about that. That's the story of today. At any rate, if you go to this link, it's called Show Another Way /books/download. /download our free books. Or you can Google Susan Trout and get to the information. She's giving the books away. They're beautiful $20, $30 books, and they're all wonderful books. And there are 4 of them. There's a trilogy, and then the fourth one is To Show Another Way. And they're really important, and you can download them for free. And as I said, it's Show Another Way /books/download our free books. So I hope that lots of people will take advantage of it and share it with everybody you know, because it's good stuff. Okay, now today we've had a real fiasco already because I was given the wrong link to put in the email, which I sent out twice this week to almost 3,000 people twice. So those of you who have found us for today, we're up to 40. We're doing pretty well. People are finding it little by little. We are recording, and this will be up. And thankfully, Dr. van Lommel has agreed to come back in October.
No, when we do it tonight, I will not come back in October.
So watch our calendar to see if he comes back in October. I would love to do it again so we have a proper representation of our interest here, because I've had so many people open the emails. About almost 50% of the emails are opened, which is an incredible amount. So people are very interested in it. So I think we should give it another chance. But this one will be available as well.
That's
And,
it.
and it will be online. So we have over 100 lectures available online from fabulous, amazing, interesting people. I hope that you'll take advantage of that and enjoy them. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, today we are blessed to have Dr. Pim van Lommel with us, and I'm sure you all have read wonderful things about him, and this is his book. I don't know if you can see it somehow or another. There it is. Comes and goes. Wonderful book, a fabulous book. And I'm so grateful that he's in the world and has done such wonderful research for us. And I'm just going to turn it over to you, Pim, and it's all yours until 4 o'clock. If people have questions, would you like them to save them for the end, or do you want to follow them in the chat yourself?
No.
Or do you want me to follow them? And
we had accorded that it would be an interview, so you should ask the questions and I will answer them.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you talk first. Tell us about how you got into this and what happened when you first discovered it, and what led you to delve deeper into it. It's really wonderful information.
Okay. Well, I'm a cardiologist, so I was privileged to meet people who had survived a cardiac arrest. And in 1969, I just started my specialization in cardiology. Then I worked in one of the first coronary care units in the Netherlands, because modern resuscitation, modern CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, was not possible because defibrillation and external chest compression were just available in 69, 68. So I worked one of the first coronary care units in the Netherlands. And then we had a 44-year-old man who had a cardiac arrest. And we successfully resuscitated him with 3 or 4 defibrillations, shocks. And we were very happy. It was new for us. I was the doctor in charge, and he came back. He regained consciousness, but he was extremely disappointed that he was back. And he told me about a beautiful light and a tunnel and music and beautiful landscape. I've never forgot this event, but it was just starting specialization. I was just married with 2 young children, so I never forgot, but I didn't start to do anything with it until I read a book by George Ritchie, Return from Tomorrow. I read it in 1986. I'd never read anything about near-death experience before. I never had read the book by Raymond Moody, Life After Life, which was published in 1975. So when I read the book by George Ritchie, Return from Tomorrow, he describes a very deep near-death experience he had when he died in 1943 as a medical student. He had a double pneumonia and didn't receive antibiotics. They were not available for medical students, so he died. And the nurse was so upset that this medical student died that the nurse was able to persuade the doctor to give him an injection right to the heart from adrenaline. So after 9 minutes of death, he regained consciousness. And he told a very, very deep and interesting NDE. And that was the moment I was started to be interested and intrigued about it. So in 1986, I started to ask patients who had survived a cardiac arrest if they had memories from the period of unconsciousness, from the period of cardiac arrest. And within 2 years, out of 50 patients, 12 patients shared the NDE with me. And that started my scientific curiosity, because I had learned in university and on school, everybody has learned it, that consciousness is a product of brain function. So it should be impossible to report an enhanced consciousness with the possibility of perception, memories from early childhood, future event, flash forward, meeting deceased relatives, being of light, having a life review, meeting a border, etc., and a conscious return into the body should not be possible. So, and until that time in 88, there just had been some retrospective studies with a lot of selection of patients. So we started in 88 our prospective study a total of 344 consecutive survivors of cardiac arrest in 10 Dutch hospitals. And we did it from 88 to 92, 93. And then we had also a longitudinal study with interviews, taped interviews, 2 years and 8 years after the cardiac arrest in all patients who had survived. And what we found first in the prospective study, that 18% of the patients reported a near-death experience, 62 patients, and 82% did not report any memories at all. Now, when we compared the two groups of patients with a near-death experience and without, there were no difference at all. I mean, there was no difference in the duration of cardiac arrest. If it had been 2 minutes or 8 minutes, didn't matter at all. If they had been unconscious for 5 minutes or 3 weeks in coma, didn't matter at all. If they had had a cardiac arrest in the cath lab in electrophysiological studies, usually resuscitated within 30 seconds, didn't matter at all. So the severity of anoxia, lack of oxygen in the brain, didn't matter at all. And moreover, all patients had been unconscious due to lack of oxygen in the brain, and only 18% reported the near-death experience. So we could exclude lack of oxygen in the brain as an explanation for the cause or content of the near-death experience. That was one of the points, but most people thought in that time that was just anoxia of the brain. And then we look for medication. The given medication didn't matter at all. Religion didn't matter at all. If they were atheist or Christian or Buddhist, didn't matter at all. Fear of death didn't matter at all. So psychological reason didn't matter at all. If they had foreknowledge that these experiences were possible, didn't matter at all. So the main conclusion, and it's still the largest prospective study and the only study with statistical analysis, but we found that there was no medical or scientific explanation why only 80% of those patients with cardiac arrest reported near-death experience. And we could exclude all until that time, given possible explanations. We could exclude them all. And then we had a longitudinal study, but all survivors of cardiac arrest who had a near-death experience with a matched control group of patients who had the cardiac arrest but no near-death experience. A matched control group is a group of patients with the same sex, gender, the same time interval, and the same age. So we could compare these two groups. And what we found, that only patients with a near-death experience had this classical transformation. So the transformation we know from patients with an ND is not due to the cardiac arrest, but due to the near-death experience. That was the first time we could, in a prospective design, find out that this was not the explanation. And what we found as transformation, first of all, people lose their fear of death. They believe in a continuity of consciousness. Second is they have a new insight what is important in life, which is unconditional love, empathy and compassion, first towards yourself. Accept your own negative aspects we all have, and then have compassion and love and empathy towards others and towards animals, towards plants, and towards nature, because they feel connected with everybody else and with nature. That's what by near-death experience is also called an experience of oneness. And they also know now, because of the life review, that everything you will do to others will come back to you. Because in the life review, we not only have memories from the past, but also you relive what you have done, and you feel the emotions of the other people who are involved in that event. So when you give hatred or violence, you experience the violence from the other position. And the third aspect, transformation, is enhanced intuitive sensitivity. People usually don't talk about it spontaneously. You have to ask about it. And enhanced intuition is that people know what other people think and other people feel. So they know that someone is ill, they know that someone's mother has died, they know that someone will die in 3 weeks, which happens then. So they have information not by the senses. So usually you receive your own waking consciousness. I call it channel 1. But when you have had an NDE, you receive channel 2, 3, 4, and 5, the consciousness of other people as well. And you know what the people think and feel. And this can be quite disturbing as well, because you don't want to have this information, but you receive it without asking for it. So this prospective study was published in The Lancet in 2001. And The Lancet is one of the most important medical journals in the world. And it gave a worldwide stir. It was on the front page of all papers all over the world. Incredible. And so I had to stop my work as cardiologist for 1 week because of all the interviews we had to give. And then I have given a lot of interviews and also television, radio, interview, etc., giving a lot of lectures. And then in 2007, I published the book in Dutch, IANDS Consciousness, and was translated in English when Consciousness Beyond Life. And this book is in the Netherlands now in the 32nd print. So it has been sold more than 155,000 prints in the Netherlands. And it has been translated into 11 languages. This year it will be about 12 languages. So it has been translated into English and French and Italian and Spanish and Polish and Serbian and whatever, Latvian, Chinese, Russian, etc. So worldwide, more than 400,000 copies have been sold. So that's, I think that's important, not for me, but to get the people the information they need, especially when they had an NDE. So when they read their book, my book, it's for them a kind of support that they are not crazy. And it is true what happened to them. And I know from a lot of patients who had an NDE, you give this book to the doctor, say, now you can read what happened to me. So it's useful for them as well. And the last 2 years, especially, I've given a lot of interviews, more than 50 interviews all over the world, Zoom. Recently I had an English interview with more than 700,000 views, which is also translated to Spanish and Russian and etc. and German. So what I try to do with the interview that especially the younger generation don't read books anymore, but they like to see a film, YouTube film or interview. So that's why I try to expand the knowledge from people about NDE and its impact for people's life. So that's a kind of summary. You're mute, Diane, you're mute. Diana, you're mute. No,
I got it. I got
now
it.
Now you're there.
It wasn't. I don't know how it happened. I didn't mute it, but it's okay. We're okay. We're good now. What else can go wrong today, right? We're up to 43 attendees now. That's better.
A little bit better.
A little bit better. So people, if any questions you have, please write them in the chat box.
I'll put the hands on.
Brian says, in cardiac arrest patients who are successfully revived, why do such a small percentage have or remember their NDEs? I would expect everyone to remember.
Yeah. But when you believe that lack of oxygen in the brain is the cause for near-death experience, then everybody should have one. But only 80% of the people who survived cardiac arrest reported a near-death experience. The mean age was 62 years old. And we divided the patients in above 60 years and under 60 years. The people under 60 years had more frequently an NDE than the older ones. There's one study done, prospective study in children who had an NDE by Melvin Morse, And there they found that 70% of those children had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
And the retrospective studies on people who have traffic accidents, the mean age is between 30 and 40, about 40% report a near-death experience. So the younger you are, the more chance you have to report a near-death experience. So for me, the explanation is that when you got older, then the connection between consciousness and the body and brain is more strict. So you need more time to report a near-death experience. Everybody who will die will have a death experience. That's what we know from after-death communication. Consciousness is always there. There's a continuous consciousness. But not everybody has this experience when they are resuscitated within 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So and younger children are much more open, have an open consciousness, and the connection between consciousness and the brain and body is much loose. So these young children can see beings we don't see, and we can have contact with people we don't see. So that could be an explanation. Now, the other thing perhaps is very important to state is that why is a near-death experience possible, and what is the explanation that it happens? Because the never proven assumption is that consciousness is a product of brain function. So when this should be true, then near-death experience should not be possible in patients who have near-death experience in cardiac arrest. So what happens in the brain when you have a cardiac arrest? When people have cardiac arrest, they lose consciousness within seconds. And we have also been studies done in induced cardiac arrest for, let's say, threshold testing and ICDs, internal cardiovascular defibrillators, and also induced cardiac arrest in animals. What you see, distribution of consciousness within seconds. The blood flow to the brain, which you can measure by Doppler, is 0 within 1 second. The clinical findings is there are no body reflexes anymore. The body doesn't move anymore, which is a function of the cortex of the brain. The brainstem reflexes are gone, which is the gag reflex, the corneal reflex, and the pupils who don't react to light. So the brainstem doesn't function anymore. And the breathing center, which is close to the brainstem, stops functioning. So there is apnea, no breathing of the patients. And we have the EEG measurement, what we did in the induced cardiac arrest in ICDs and also in animals. You see, within 10 to 20 seconds, the EEG is flatline. So there's no activity at all, measurable activity of the brain. So the clinical findings is total loss of function from the brainstem and of the cortex. And you can also see no flatline EEG. And in animals, you also see stop function of the deeper functions of the brain as well. So also the deeper functions of the brain stop in cardiac arrest. And that's important. So consciousness is not produced by the brain, but consciousness is always there. And what people tell us, when you can talk about the past and the future, everything happens at the same moment. When you have a live review, you can talk for a week and your cardiac arrest is 2 or 3 minutes. Everything happens at the same moment. So there's no time and no space, and everything is interconnected. That's what I use as analogy from quantum physics. So it is a non-local consciousness without time, without brain, space, and everything is always connected. And that means also that consciousness is fundamental in the universe, together with energy and information. So everything in the universe starts with consciousness and information energy, and also planet Earth, and also our body comes from consciousness and information and energy. So it starts, and that means that everything has a kind of, let's say, subjective aspects. Also animals, also plants, also planet Earth has some subjective aspect, because it starts from consciousness. And it makes a whole new science as well, because the problem with material science is that you can, only that is true what you can objectify, what you can measure, what you can duplicate, and what you can falsify. Now, what you think and what you feel, your consciousness, you cannot objectify, you cannot measure, you cannot duplicate, you cannot falsify. So consciousness is beyond the current material science. So we have to expand science to include subjective experiences. That's what we call the post-materialist science. And that's what's happening now around the world, that we have to include first the person accounts as well as scientific importance.
Wonderful, wonderful. When I had my last experience, I had never believed in reincarnation before I went to the other side in '95, and when I came back, I just knew it was true. And since then, I've had memories of past lives. I know, for example, I was a Tibetan Buddhist monk a long, long time ago. I can remember in my body now, I can remember being a little boy who was in a family who had many too many mouths to feed. We were always hungry. And when I got to be about 10, I left home and I walked up a mountain and joined a monastery and became a Tibetan Buddhist monk for the rest of my life. I know I was the person in charge of plants and planting. I knew when to plant and when to harvest, and I was always the one consulted. In this lifetime, I haven't met a plant I couldn't kill. It's just not part of my life in this life. But in this lifetime, I've had past life bleed through. I've spent 10 years trying to figure out my connection to a woman that I met, and finally unraveled it that I was a Civil War soldier and she was my wife. And she has our son in this lifetime. And it was a very intense 10 years and very confusing. I thought I was crazy. But since then, I've come to understand and put it all in perspective and put everything in the right place. But I have absolutely no doubt that reincarnation is real. Have you come across any cases of reincarnation or made any opinions about that?
Well, first of all, it's rather rare that people have experience of past lives during a near-death experience. That hardly ever happens. But I know from the study from Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker that a lot of children under the age of 4 or 5 can have spontaneous stories of previous lives, usually after a traumatic death in the previous life, so murder or whatever. Soldiers who were shot. And they have described also more than 40 cases with biological marks on the previous life, how they died by a shot wound here and here, whatever. So I believe it's beyond reasonable doubt that reincarnation is possible. Ian Stevens always said there's no proof, it's beyond reasonable doubt. And let's say in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in indigenous people, it has been widely accepted that there is a reincarnation. So I think it's possible, but the combination with the near-death experience is rather rare for me.
Meg asked, is there an NDE told to you by a patient that especially impressed you? If so, would you tell us about it, please?
Well, I have received tens of thousands of emails from all over the world, and each story is impressive. And when I talk to people, I've talked to personally for more than 1,000 people. It's always emotional for me as well. But one of the most important things is like what was published in the Lancet as well, that there's a man of early in his 40s who was found in a meadow unconscious, and he was brought into a hospital after about 30 minutes. And bystanders had just do some chest compression, nothing more. So when he came in hospital, the coronary care unit, his body was cold, it was already blue, there was no brain function at all. He was unconscious, no body reflex, no brain stem reflexes, widened pupils, etc. And the nurse wanted to intubate the patient, so to give him more oxygen. And then he found out that the patient had dentures in his mouth. So what he did was took out the dentures and put it on the crash cart somewhere. Shall I wait?
Yes.
Can I continue? Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. So the nurse took out the dentures and put them on the crash cart. And it took about 1.5 hours to get the patient with blood pressure and heart rhythm again. Do you listen or not?
Yes.
Okay, but you're not looking.
I'm sorry. I've got people coming at me from different directions here.
Yeah. Let them.
Yes.
We're now talking, so let them.
Okay, I'll do that.
The patient had, after 1.5 hours, blood pressure and heart rhythm, but he was still in coma, was on the respirator for artificial breathing. So it was transferred to the intensive care unit for artificial breathing. And he was there for 1 week before he regained consciousness. So after 1 week in coma, he was brought back on the coronary care ward. And a nurse came in for medication, and he saw the nurse. He said, "You know where my dentures are. You were the one who took them out of my mouth and put them on a car with all those bottles on it. There was a slide underneath, and there you have put my teeth." And the nurse was so flabbergasted because he knew that the patient was in deep coma, no breathing, no body reflexes, no brain stem reflexes, nothing. It was cold. He had blue spots on it, what you see when the body has died. He could tell all the details. He could tell from above how the resuscitation room looked like from above. And in this resuscitation room, he was brought in coma and transferred in coma to the intensive care unit. But he could still describe this small room. He could describe the appearances like doctors and nurses having done the CPR as well. So this is a quite striking out-of-body experience with corroboration of theoretical aspects. And that's one of the impressive stories we have. And it was published in the Lancet as well.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I've got another one here. Cheryl asks, can you please comment on positive versus negative experiences?
Yeah, that's also interesting. That I get this question always. I don't know why. We don't know the percentage of people who have a distressing near-death experience. That's what it's called. And there have been publications by Bruce Grayson and Diana. There have been books and articles about distressing NDE. We don't know the percentage. We know that people with a positive near-death experience have a frightening moment in a dark space. 50% have a frightening moment, and then they see a small light where they're attracted to, and they describe the tunnel. But some people stay in this dark room or go down and can have some hellish experiences like in Divine Comedy of Dante. I think it's only 1 or 2%, but we don't know. People who have a positive near-death experience are extremely reluctant to share the NDE with others. But when you have a distressing NDE, you have feeling of guilt. You don't want to share it with others. I have met some people who have been sitting with me on an evening, 2 evenings for 3 hours of crying, just trying to share this distressing NDE with me. But at last, it's also a positive experience. But it is much more hard. And the problem is, why can it happen? I think everything what you experience, what you perceive, is depending on your state of consciousness. So when you look around in the world and you're in love, the world is wonderful and beautiful. And when you're depressed, the same world is awful, depressive. So you have a subjective aspect, how you perceive yourself, and that's also the same with a distressing NDE. When you have this experience in an aspect of distress, just an aspect we all have, then you can have a distressing NDE. So you're not a bad person or whatever. It's just an aspect of the process you having this experience from.
It seems like some people see the darkness as peaceful and comforting, where other people, isn't that something to do, see it as something scary and afraid, something to be afraid of? Isn't that something that they bring as a result of experiences they've had?
I know people who have had in a dark space and they've thought it was lovely dark space, and the other have frightening experience in the same. So it's just the state of consciousness you have.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
It must be. Um, uh, James says he'd like to ask a personal question. He had a subdural hematoma,
Yeah.
which is
After trauma?
a traumatic brain injury.
Exactly. Yeah.
And most people with TBIs don't remember their NDEs, since the brain is where our memories are stored. Do you personally feel the results of all NDEs are significant if we can't remember it? Or is it not, since we don't remember seeing the light or the love?
Well, first, memories are not stored in the brain.
Right,
Consciousness is not stored in the brain, but it's
exactly.
all stored in a non-local consciousness. And this non-local consciousness is always everywhere available, but only a few can have access to it. For instance, when your brain stops functioning, or when you have deep meditation or loss of blood. So you can have it in near drowning, you can have loss of blood in complicated childbirth. So there are many circumstances, but also existential crisis, deep depression, meditation, fear of death, and imminent traffic accident, mountaineering accident can have the same experiences. But what we know, consciousness is not stored in the brain, and memories are not stored in the brain, but are stored elsewhere in the non-local consciousness. And about our longitudinal study, we found that only the patients who had an NDE have the transformation. And we know from small children under the age of 4, when they have an NDE, for instance, a complicated childbirth as a baby, you don't remember the NDE, but you always have the transformation. All these people as adults have enhanced intuition. And we found that people who didn't have memory in our study didn't have the transformation. So it was not about not remembering, but it was not having any, because the combination of consciousness and the brain was too strict to get loose. So people who didn't have the NDE because there was no transformation.
It's interesting to me how people change so dramatically. I have an 84-year-old friend who collapsed a couple of years ago, and she had some kind of serious aortic something or other and had to have surgery. I hadn't seen her for a while, and when I saw her, her personality had changed, and I could feel the love. I felt the change and the softening of her personality, and the ways that are so indicative of a near-death experience. And she didn't remember of it, but when I started talking to her about it, she remembered looking down on her body. But without my nudging her, she had no memory of it. But
she had memories, but she didn't get it into a conscious aspect.
Couldn't.
Another thing I didn't mention is that even the most people who have a positive near-death experience they cannot share it with others. So the doctor the physician don't listen, the nurses don't listen, the family members don't listen, the partner don't listen. So it's a very hard period for people who had an NDE, with years of depression, loneliness, and homesickness, until they think they are crazy. They think, they're the only one. And until they read something about it, they see a program on the television or read a book about it, and then they say, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that has a name, it's near-death experience. And then they start to talk about it. But 70% of patients who had an ND get a divorce because the partner, it's not the same person as I married before. So it has a lot of personal impacts as well. And they change jobs. I know some financial man who was very important, did a lot of things. And after his ND, he just started to help people, poor people, to help them with their finances without asking money for it.
Wow. Molly asks, what is your impression of the telepathy tapes?
I didn't see the telepathy tapes. But I know that telepathy is possible because of enhanced intuition. That means that you know what other people think and feel. I never used the word telepathy, but I used non-local information exchange. That means that you receive information not by your senses, not by your body, without time, without space. And that's what you can call telepathy as well.
But you're classifying other experiences in with telepathy. I mean, I've had conversations with people, looking at them and seeing them, but not. I'm there and on the other side, just looking at them and having conversations with no mouth and no talking.
Well, then you talk about after-death communication.
Mm-hmm.
Telepathy is usually between living people. But when you have after-death communication, then you have information exchange with the conscious of deceased relatives.
That's helpful.
And that's something different.
Yes.
And a lot of people with an ND have the possibility to work as a medium because they receive information from the other side and they receive information from deceased relatives. So, but it is because of the enhanced intuition they have.
Mary asks if you would mind talking about how your research has impacted you personally.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes, it
I
is.
started as a materialist cardiologist. I just wanted to study physics, and then I started to healthcare, this medicine, and then I started cardiology with a lot of physics as well. So, but I had a scientific curiosity because of the people who had an ND, and then I started to ask questions. And for me, science is asking questions with an open mind. Forget what you've learned, forget the dogmas we're all raised with, and just ask open questions. And when I started to study people with an ND and start to talk to them and read articles and studies about it, then my mind changed totally. And now I'm convinced that there is a continuity of consciousness after the death of our body. Death is just the end of your body, but not the end of your consciousness. It's always there before birth and after death, this consciousness. To understand sometimes, I compare it also with the internet, with the iCloud. The iCloud, there are 1 billion websites and YouTube films, always there. When you're sitting there and people will, is this information going through you and through walls? Electromagnetic information waves. And you need an instrument to receive it. So you need a functioning computer to receive parts of this iCloud. But your computer does not produce it. Everywhere in the world you can open your computer and you receive parts of the YouTube film, but it's always coded in the worldwide electromagnetic informational fields. And that's the same with non-local consciousness. It's always there, but you don't receive normally just a part of it, which is your waking consciousness, and just a part of your memories, which is belong. So the brain is an interface, but also a filter. And when the filter is gone, then you have this enhanced intuition, and then you receive much more information from your non-local consciousness and also from consciousness of other people as well.
Yes, that's really important and interesting addition. Thank you. I've learned doing this that that death is an illusion, and that I know that you feel exactly the same a minute after you die as a minute before you died. It's just your body is no longer there, but the consciousness just continues the same as before you died. It's been a revelation to me.
What
Um,
people tell me that life being back in the body is like an illusion. And when
yes,
you're out of your body, that's more real than real. That's the real, that's your home,
yes,
that's more real than real. And
yes.
being back is just an illusion. This physical world is an illusion.
Patrick says, and this is interesting, for early childhood NDEs, are there any ways that they are able to access some of the memories they had from their experience, especially later in life? Is there any way to go back to those memories once
Sometimes,
you out?
sometimes people have used hypnosis, but it's not always successful, but it can be successful. But another thing is when you have had as baby or young child an NDE, you have more chance to have an NDE as an adult. We also found in our study that people who have an NDE as a child or women who have been sexually abused had more chance to have an NDE as an adult because the connection between conscious and the brain body has already been loosened.
Ah, good. Thank you. Um, Mary asks, has the field of quantum physics affected your understanding of NDEs or vice versa?
I think that I use quantum physics as an analogy. What people tell us about what they experience in the consciousness. There's no time, no space, everything happens at the same moment and everything is connected. The experience of oneness. And that's what we know from quantum physics. So quantum physics is not an explanation for NDEs, but it is an analogy to understand what people try to tell us, because an NDE is an ineffable experience. There are no words for it. So a child will use different words as an adult, and a Christian will use different words as a Buddhist or Muslim, because it is ineffable. But what they try to tell us is there's beyond time, beyond space, and everything is connected.
Yes, yes. I'm curious as to how your research and your new or your learned understanding of near-death experiences affected you personally in the sense of your own psychic development and your own ability to attach, and how it's related to how it's changed or interacted with the people around you that are close to you.
Well, I never used the word psychic. I'm
Yeah,
not psychic at all.
I just
But
use it for a shortcut.
yeah, but let's say my wife and I have been vegetarian for the last 25, 30 years. We just eat organic dynamic food based on anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner. We love nature. We love silence. We have a beautiful garden. We live 300 meters from a national park where we can walk and bike. So we love silence. We love nature. We love plants and birds and animals. And also in our house, it's always silence. Only when we want to listen to music, we put something on. But usually our house is silence as well. So we're open for everything.
Interesting, very interesting. Wow.
And when people share that idea with me, I resonate with them as well.
Wow. Wow. So, wow. Uh, do people have some more questions? There must be more questions out there.
Yes, I think.
um, do you find yourself with a need to serve others? Has that been enhanced in any way by your research? Like
Well,
like what I was talking about with Susan Trout and the I mean, for myself, I feel always the desire to help others or to serve in some way.
I was a physician. I was always helping people,
Yes,
patients. And
yes,
when I started cardiology, the technical aspects of cardiology I loved most. But
Yes.
now when I finish my cardiology, 10% is techniques and 90% is just listening to the patient.
Beautiful. I love that. Say it again.
Well, for me was when I finished my cardiology, the technical aspects of cardiology were only 10%, 90% was just listening to the patients.
Yes. I find that ability of a physician to listen is almost as healing as the prescriptions he
It is.
prescribes.
It is healing. It is healing.
I
And
when
people,
I when I go to a doctor who cuts me off or who doesn't pay any attention to what I'm saying, it harms me physically.
of course, but you also have enhanced intuition, so it comes more in by you than by others as well.
Yes. Thank you. Um, Meg says, what do you say to other doctors who are skeptics or claim NDEs are impossible when they say that to you?
It's up to them. I don't react. I don't want to convince other people. So usually when they're skeptic, they don't know the literature, they have read my books, they don't know articles about near-death experience. Just materialist thinking people who don't want to, it's what I call prejudice and willful ignorance. And people are free, so they can be ignorant about it. It's all right for me. And they will find out when they die. So I don't want to try to convince anyone. But when they're interested, they can read books or see interviews or whatever. And usually it starts when somebody close to them dies. When you lose a child, you lose a partner, you lose your parents. Then they start to think about death, and then they start to look around, and then they are more interested, and then they find out about near-death experiences, or end-of-life experience, or shared death experiences, or after-death communication. Also, after-death communication in Europe, there's 125 million people have after-death communication. In the USA, more than 100,000, 100 million people, 100,000, yeah. Many. But usually they don't talk about it because they're reluctant to talk about it. But so many people have in the first days, weeks or months after the death of someone very close, have the experience of connection, contact with the consciousness of deceased relatives. But they don't share it. But it happens a lot.
Yes, much more than we know.
No.
Cheryl said, do the near-death experiences that occur always occur after complete cardiac arrest, or can they sometimes precede the clinical death?
No, it happens during cardiac arrest, but there are many more circumstances, like near drowning, what you said, loss of blood and complicated childbirth, but also fear of death, imminent traffic accident, mountaineering accident, severe depression or existential crisis, you can have it, meditation, you can have it, or just walking in nature without an obvious cause, you can have the same kind of experiences. So you don't have a non-functioning brain, but for science, it's important to have a non-functioning brain, but then you can conclude that the brain doesn't produce consciousness, that consciousness is without time, without space. It's non-local, it's always everywhere. So for study, for scientific studies, research, cardiac arrest patients are very important.
Well, one thing that I've learned after studying near-death experiences for 20, let's see, I had my second experience in 95. So I opened Chicago IANDS in May 98, guided by my guides. And one of the most important things that I've learned is that there is no one way to do anything. So that I believe that there could be someone who has kind of a preliminary near-death experience before they have a real one or before they go to the other side, that things can happen anyway. I believe they happen for the best of the individual and whatever is most important for the individual. So, in some cases it'll be one way, in some cases it's another way, and that there's no one way. Anybody who says this is the only way it can happen doesn't know what they're talking about, in my experience.
I just explained to you there are many circumstances that, and
Exactly.
that's what I told you.
Yes, exactly. I know. I'm underlining it. Underlining it. It's important. Um, Rich asks, what is your attitude toward mediumship? Do you have any personal experience with it?
I don't have personal experience with mediumship. I'm not really interested in it. I think for some people it's important. But most important for me is when you have a spontaneous after-death communication with a deceased relative, then it's the choice of the deceased relative who makes the contact. And usually that after-death communication is in sleep because the threshold of consciousness is lower when you sleep. So the people said, I had a dream of my deceased father, child, whatever. But it's not a dream, it's a conscious experience during sleep because the threshold is lower. So deceased relatives can have more easy access to your consciousness. And perhaps a medium will disturb the deceased person as well. So I don't know. It's people are free to ask for a medium. And I know there have been studies done which are very impressive in Tucson. There have been studies done, Windbridge Institute. That's very impressive. 3 double-blind mediumship, and it really is possible.
Wow.
Windbridge Institute. Yeah.
What is the name of that?
Windbridge Institute.
Oh, Windbridge. Yes, of course. Okay, thank you. Eileen asks, do you know of people not having an NDE experiencing in their body the light and consciousness in meditation?
Yes, I know people who have
Yes.
during meditation a period of enhanced consciousness. The only thing I would say, you cannot start meditation to have this kind of experience, but it may happen.
Right.
Never be the purpose. I start to meditate to have an experience of enhanced consciousness. That's not good. That can happen when you meditate.
Yeah, again, I think it's no one way to do anything. You
It's
can
possible.
find you can have these experiences in all kinds of weird ways that you never thought about, including meditation. I did it the first time in meditation, but I also then later discovered I'd spent my whole life in meditation as a Tibetan Buddhist monk in a previous lifetime. So when I started to meditate in this life, after meditating a week or so, I went through the tunnel and I went directly to the light. So it can happen, but
Oh,
again, it's
I'm sure.
individual. It's individual.
I know many stories about it. Yeah.
Great. Can you tell us others?
No, the important thing is that during meditation, so Kundalini yoga or just meditation can have the same kind of experience of enhanced consciousness.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Meg says, what are your opinions about telepathic communication with someone who is about to die?
Well, what we call end-of-life experiences, that mean that people in a period of dying, which can take days or hours or weeks, then they're sometimes out of their body and inside the body. So you can have end-of-life experience that they see deceased relatives will come to get them. They see light, they can see beautiful landscapes, they feel love, have premonitions, and usually they're able to share it with others. But recently a study done in Switzerland, in a palliative care where people were end stage of cancer, about 90% of those patients had end-of-life experience, but were not always able to put it into words. So it happens quite often in the dying period that you're in and out your body.
Yes. What is your opinion about the future of this research? Do you have any thoughts about where it's going, and or any ways to help it go better, further, faster?
To be honest, I don't believe that we need new research. What we need is the research that has been done, has been better known. That's why I give lectures, whether I give interviews. The most important things we know now, but a lot of people don't know about it. So important is to talk about it. And I give lectures also to medical students in university. I've given lectures at universities in Holland and in England, the Sorbonne in Paris, Yale University from Germany. So younger people are more open than the older generation. And they start thinking about it. So it's important to spread the world. And now another thing is that in Spain, they're doing to duplicate our Dutch study in 9 hospitals in Spain and 1 in Mexico and 1 in Chile. So that is Spanish people are doing the same research now in hospitals and doing the prospective study duplicated and then the longitudinal study as well. So that's important. You have different kind of people who do the same research. But the most important thing is that we know the essence of what's all about in near-death experience, what the impact it has on people, on society, how we can change society because we listen to people with an NE. It's all about love. It's all about compassion. It's all about being connected with other people. Everything you do to others will come back, love and hatred as well. So you change the way you live. So the more people know more about the death experience, the better the world may be in the future. So we don't need to research anymore, but we need to spread the word about the death experiences. So that conscious death is not the end of our conscious, just the end of our body. And so many people still are afraid of death because they believe that death is the end of everything we are. And they live differently. They give all the energy toward power, toward greed, toward money, about big houses, big cars.
Yes.
Young women must be beautiful bodies. It's not the essence. So when you think everything is now here, you put your energy into these material aspects of life. When you had in the death experience, it's more the spiritual aspects about love, about nature, about the future of the planet Earth, how we eat our food, don't eat meat anymore, etc. for the animals. So that's the way we can change the world as well.
Have you have you formed any thoughts about the actual God, what God is? Because when I first went through the tunnel, I went directly to what I know was God, but it was light, and it was very powerful, and I felt love beyond anything I could. I tell people, if you think of the time you were most in love and you multiplied by 1,000,000, trillion, gazillion times, maybe you would have come close to what I felt. And it was, I could feel it in my hands. It was like marshmallow fluff that wasn't sticky. It went whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The love was so thick. It says in the Bible, God is love. And that sentence always was the most important sentence that I ever read in the Bible when I was young. I was raised Missouri Synod Lutheran and went to a Lutheran high school. And so we talked about God, but the God that I met when I went through the other side isn't the God that they talked about in church.
First of all, that people who had a death experience don't go to church anymore. They're more religious.
Exactly.
But they don't believe anymore. They know.
They know. Exactly. I love it.
And I never use the word God because for Christian people, God is an idea. I just talk about light and unconditional love and the highest form of consciousness, universal consciousness, divine consciousness. That could be called God or Buddha or Atman or Brahma or whatever. Doesn't matter at all. Give it a word from your own background. But it is also God is beyond words. I know from NDE who was with a lot of light beings and deceased relatives. And they asked, is the light is God? And the answer was, the light is the breath of God. It's just beyond what we see, the breath of God, the light. So it's just ineffable. It's just beyond imagination.
But this light, do you have any sense at all what the light is comprised of?
The light is pure love, and you can look in it, and it is 1,000,000 times stronger than the sun, but you can look in it. So
Yes.
that's a different kind of light. And you don't see it with your eyes, you feel it with your consciousness, with the essence
Your
of who you are.
heart. You see it.
But you don't have a heart at that moment as well. You feel it in your consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
There's
Yes.
no
Yes.
heart when you're out of your body.
Yes. Yes. Meg asks, is it possible that medical training will change to incorporate non-local consciousness? I was at Yale 25 years ago when we had an in-service training held by an NDE experiencer. I don't think it had a great impact, although it was a great talk.
I've been in Yale as well, giving lectures about NDE. But I think it's changing. The younger generation is more open, and they ask for lectures. They ask to read books and read and watch interviews, etc. They're more open, and especially also the IANDS is trying to give courses for medical students and also for nurses and medical doctors as well, because it's so important. And what my experience also in the Netherlands is that more younger doctors and nurses are more open and interested in near-death experiences. They know a little bit more than before.
Yes.
It's changing. I'm positive.
Yes. 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 Eileen said, do you know if people keep their individuality when they have NDEs and are in the other world, or forget about the earth life and sorry, I'm trying to or forget about the earth life and who they were? Do you think they remember their individuality from each life?
Well, what we have here in our waking consciousness, in the physical world, it's our ego. Ego is about greed, about hate, about jealousy, whatever. That's lost. That's gone.
Yes.
So the essence of who you are, there's a continuity. I call it the higher self with capital. That's the essence of who you are. And the essence of who you are is a light being as well. And so the essence of who you are is continuing, and you come back in a new body to learn more aspects you didn't learn before. But the ego aspect is lost. You can see how you lived by your life review, how it impacted yourself and other people as well, and that's to learn. It's a learning experience, and then you come back to learn other things as well. So the essence of who you are is there in combination with everybody else. So it's interconnected as well. So it's still kind of individuality and a total, like the wave in the ocean. It's both.
I've had people tell me that they could be whoever they wanted to be on the other side. They could remember whichever part of themselves, but basically, my feeling is that souls are neither male nor female nor any one particular personality.
No gender.
A soul is a soul, and each soul has its own vibration, and you recognize each other by vibration.
It's about frequency. Yeah, it's about frequency.
Yes, exactly, and that incredible feeling of being in love and being and what we call sex, which everybody seeks here. It's just a little taste of the experience that you get on the other side. It's just like a teaser, because I've experienced sex on the other side, as emerging with another soul. When you have a very close soul connection with another person, you
But
can know.
sex is not the right terminology then.
No, it's not, because it's not nothing like what we call sex,
No,
but
no.
but that
You-
feeling of joy.
it's being connected.
Yes,
It's not
yes,
they're being connected. That's something else.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, thank you. Yes, yes. We've got another question here. Is there any special research into the after effects of early childhood NDE, such as gifts, sensitivities, or being drawn to spirituality at a young age?
Chapter 4 of my book. Chapter 4 of my book is about NDE in children. And PMH Edward has written about NDEs in children as well. So I can advise also to read the books by PMH Edward about children and NDE. And
Yes,
chapter 4 of my book is also about children and NDE.
wonderful. I was a blue baby, and I came into this world with several of my guides from the other side, who I regularly played with and conversed with and interacted with during the first few years of my life. I came in being able to see Jesus and talk to Jesus whenever I wanted, and I had a proclivity for all these spiritual kind of things as a young child. And
Did you feel lonely as a child?
lonely.
Yeah, because you couldn't share it with other children.
But I didn't need to worry about it because I played with my guides.
Exactly.
I didn't have other children, but I had invisible.
So I'm
Invisible.
convinced that you had an ND at birth, complicated childbirth.
Yes,
So
yes.
you had enhanced intuition as a child. Have you been depressed when you were 16, 18 years old?
When I was how old?
16 to 80 years old. Was you depressed?
I didn't understand the question. Sorry.
Did you had depression when you were 16 to 18 years old?
16 to 18?
Yeah. Were you depressed?
No.
No. Because usually it happens when you have a NDE at childbirth. You're so different than other people. You feel different. You are different. You cannot play with others. You look for nature. You look for silence. You look for classical music. And other children don't believe and don't understand you. And that kind of depression can happen when you are.
I probably did, but I had such a complicated life. My mother had a narcissistic borderline personality disorder and was beautiful, but and she nobody knew. I was very alone because she was married and divorced 5 times. My father was my her first husband, and I'm her only child, and she was very mean and in subtle ways, and that lasted her whole life. She died at the age of 90 in uh, 2009, 2008, and it affected me. It was very hard for me to see myself as a worthy person, because everything I did in her view was wrong, and she didn't hesitate to tell me. So uh, I've been in therapy most of my life, and I've learned a whole lot, and I have an insatiable curiosity about everything, and I've always had that, and I think those are really wonderful things that have saved me, kind of. But um, I was alone. Nobody else knew what I endured at her hands.
But that's also because of you had an NDE as a complicated childbirth.
Yes, she
You,
blamed me
you knew much more than other children.
much more. Yes. It's been an interesting life, is all I can say. But
You
not.
have a cat. You have a cat.
Yeah, I do have. I have 3 of them in the house and one outside. This
Okay.
is Gigi, Jiji. I don't know if you can see Gigi.
Ah,
She's talking. She says hello.
yes, I hear it.
But love is the only thing that matters. Bottom line, It's all about love, how much you give and how much you receive. And you have to receive because otherwise people couldn't give. So receiving is just as important as giving. And that's the secret.
It starts with giving.
It's what?
It starts with giving, love.
It starts with giving, absolutely. It's to everybody and everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Couldn't agree more. Wow, do we have more questions? Let me see here. How do NDEs affect taste in music? Do people still like Led Zeppelin?
I don't know if they like Zeppelin, but I know that when people heard music in the NDE, it's not the music we know here.
Yes.
It's more beautiful, more incredible. And so they try to find music here, but a little bit is like what they heard there, but it's always different. It's same with colors. You never will see the colors here in this earth, in this physical world, because
Right.
the colors up there are totally different and more beautiful.
Yes. 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 I have a bachelor's and master's degree in music, in flute, applied flute. I'm a pianist and a flutist. And my husband was music critic of the Chicago Tribune for many years. So we have a strong. My son is principal bassoon of the Delaware Symphony and the Bridgeport, Connecticut Symphony and the Knights Chamber Orchestra in Manhattan, and he plays with the L.A. Phil all the time and in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. So we've got music.
Music is important. Music is important.
Yes, yes. It transcends the physical world.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
You can always ask people, where is music? Where it's not in the instrument. It's not in the notes which you see. It's not in the instrument. But music is always everywhere.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Clarification, you say you don't see the light. It is something you feel. I thought people see the light. And not sure what you mean, she asks.
Well, seeing is what you do with your eyes. And it is perceiving what you are when you're out of your body. You perceive the light. And it is not by your eyes, because you don't have eyes. But you also the out-of-body experience is perceiving your surroundings.
Exactly.
And not seeing. When blind people can perceive in near-death experiences.
Yes.
And people have a very strong glasses, and the glasses are out, and they can, out of the body, can perceive everything. So it's the difference between seeing and perceiving.
It's just like hearing and touching and everything. Wow. Thank you. Last chance, folks. Any more questions? Cheryl says, do you believe that child prodigies draw their talents from the collective conscience?
Yes, they have access to this non-local consciousness. So they are more open and they have access to it.
They also have past life memories.
Sometimes, not always.
Yeah,
sometimes.
there's no one way to do anything.
No. Because they have access to this non-local realm.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. Last chance, anybody? Any more questions? Let's see. I'm looking to see if I missed anything.
I have one.
Yes.
I was going to say that, so much is learned, Diane and Dr. van Lommel, from the NTEs. And, this is the most difficult time in my generation of what we're all going through, and how I can better use these lessons to deal with the craziness, the political chaos, and everything that's going on. I get the message, but it just seems on a practical day-to-day level, it's almost impossible, to just be there in that kind of way And, you know, in other words, what I'm saying is how would, you know, talking about maybe stress or trauma inoculation against it, do you have any advice?
I think the most important thing is just talk about yourself. See the way you live. See how you, what you eat, how you love nature, how you meet other people, trying to help them and give them love. That's the only thing you can do. You cannot change society, but when a lot of people change their own consciousness, then society will change as well. So it starts only with the change of your own consciousness. And that's hard work sometimes. It's an inner work as well. So just start with yourself. And that's the most important aspect you can do as well.
Right. And you know, I've made a lot of those changes, but I can sense when my ego does
Yeah.
not want to let go and wants to run everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's another part that knows better, but the ego does not step aside easily.
No, you have to train. It doesn't happen, but it changes with your consciousness, and then also your ego will change as well. It starts with the inner consciousness, the essence of who you are, that has to change. And you have to get rid of the aspects of your ego.
Right.
And it is not easy, not simple in this world, also in your country as well, nowadays, to say.
Amen. Amen. That's exactly what I'm talking
Even
about.
all our papers in the Netherlands are full of what is happening there in your country. And also in Gaza, and also in Sudan, and also in Ukraine. It is all in the papers. But what happens now is changing our own consciousness as well, because we become more conscious about what is wrong and what is right. So at last, it will change the world as well. But it takes some time.
When you say to change our consciousness, I'm assuming our through meditation. And
yeah, whatever. Walking in nature, meditation, looking for silence, everything what happens, what you want to do.
Become one with love.
Yeah.
To serve. That's why the books that I mentioned at the beginning by Susan Trout are so important, because she stresses how important service is. Service is a way to open paths of love to other people. And that's what we need to do.
But first you have to start to love yourself.
Yes.
That's what people with IANDS tell. First thing is love yourself, accept your negative aspects, and then love, compassion, and empathy to others as well. But start to love yourself.
I think you make an important point that at this age of 73, you know, I understand it on a level deeper. And my ego likes to think I'm superior or whatever. And therefore, you know, gives me the illusion that that's loving myself, which I know is completely false.
Yeah,
it's a very good trickster, I find.
Yeah. But you're already aware of it. So it's the first step. That's important.
Yes.
That's important.
Rich says, what do we know about the NDEs of cruel, evil people?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Well, they will be confronted by the way they lived. So they will feel everything what they did to others from the other point of view. So you give hatred to others or violence to others, you will experience the violence and the hatred yourself. So it's the learning lessons is very hard for them, extremely hard. It will take a long time before they really have learned everything.
Does that mean that some people might reincarnate multiple times?
I don't know, could be. But I think everybody will need to reincarnate, because we cannot learn everything we have to learn in one life.
No, absolutely. It's all about learning lessons. I always tell people this is the Earth School, and we come here to learn lessons. When we learn the lessons we came to learn, and we go home.
And then come back again.
And then, well, there's no one way to do anything. For some people, It's coming back again.
Bodhisattvas are ready, but they still come back to help others.
Yes,
I know,
exactly.
I know.
Exactly. Exactly. God bless you. What a gift. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm sending you all the love in my heart and as many blessings as you can carry and I can get sent. I am so grateful and I appreciate so much you dealing with our craziness here in Chicago. Um, I I had one other thing I was supposed to mention at the beginning, which I will mention now. IANDS is having a national conference in Oak Brook, Illinois, the
No,
27th to 31st of August. And, if you're interested in that, go to iands.org and look up what they have to say about the conference. And if you're interested to go,
50 years of the book Life After Life by
yes,
Raymond Moody. He will be there.
it's a celebration
Exactly. Raymond Moody.
for Raymond Moody.
I
Yes,
know. He's a good friend of mine. I
thank
know it.
Yes, he's been here before, and I have some wonderful pictures with my grandson with him from years ago, and he's been an amazing, steadfast, and very important person in the near-death movement. So we're really grateful. Somebody else is popping up here. What is your view of prayer?
But prayer is look in contact with the higher aspects of consciousness. And you can call it God, you can call it divine consciousness, it doesn't matter how you call it, but it's you trying to contact with the highest aspects of consciousness.
Yes. 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 Thank you. God
You're welcome.
bless. God bless. God bless. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I would be thrilled if you would come again in
No, but
October.
you have recorded it, so you can use the
We,
recording.
yes, we can. But
Yeah,
if,
you
if
should.
you're always welcome. If ever you feel you want to add any PSs, please come.
Well, I told you I have 50 interviews in the last 2 years, so I have so many invitations. I'm trying to be a little bit reluctant. Otherwise, I have no evening free anymore. So,
Oh, how did I get so blessed?
but
Thank you.
I love to do it, so it's all right. But we have now been in contact. You've recorded it, so you can use it.
Yes, I spent 3 wonderful weeks in Nordwijkerhout.
Okay.
And with a private family there, and my husband was at a chemical conference while I was there, and we had a car, and I spent 3 weeks driving around while he was in the conference, and I totally absorbed the Dutch culture as much as I could for 3 weeks, and I loved it. So I know you're in a good place.
I'm privileged to live here.
Yes. People are popping up all kinds of thank yous. I'll maybe read a couple of them. I truly enjoyed this. Thank you. And this was my first time at a Zoom gathering. Any thoughts about dissonance with people who I have paid to help me on this path? Recent situation kindled kind of caught me off guard. The recent situation kind of caught me off guard. Dissonance with people who I have paid to help me. Well, that's part of the lessons. Thank you. This was wonderful. I hope to meet some of you at the IANDS conference in a couple of weeks. So, sorry that you won't be joining us that way, but so grateful for joining us today. And I hope to see you again.
Never know.
You
I
know,
give you my love back and all the best for you and for IANDS Chicago.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
God
Bye.
bless. See you all next month with Eric Pearl.
Okay.
September. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.